Hey, it's been a minute, but I'm here with the video. I promise I didn't forget about you. I have this bucket list video that I wanted to film, so here we are. You know, it feels good to be back. It feels good, Anyway, this video is gonna be my college reveal video. Who wants to hear about my college decision process? I'm itching to tell you about it, so let's do it. Let me find the notes that I wrote for this. Uno momento, por favor. Amazing. So if you didn't see, a couple months ago I posted my college decision reactions video, which actually got like 1,000 views, which is pretty awesome. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet, but here's an update to that. I'm gonna be going through all the colleges I got accepted to, rejected to, a brief overview of that, my elimination process, why I eliminated each one, and then just some general like college application advice. I can do a whole other video about that if you want it. Let's get into it. So I applied to 7 schools, which were University of Vermont, University of Denver, Champlain College, Fordham University, Syracuse University, American University, and University of Colorado Boulder. It's been a couple months since I've really thought about this. So the first school that I heard back to was University of Vermont, which I got in, which University of Vermont, I'm from Vermont if you didn't know, so that was like kind of like my safety school, so I was pretty sure I'd get in. I was still happy to get in though, because it was one of my top choices. I could definitely see myself there, so I was pretty happy about that. And the next school I heard back from was University of Denver, which I also got into, and those were my only two early action schools. So when you apply to college, you can apply early action, early decision, or regular decision, and I applied early action to those two. I would recommend applying early action to as many schools as you possibly can, but those were the only two that I was applying to that offered that, so I had to wait a couple months for the rest of my decisions. So the next school that I heard back from after that was Fordham University in New York, which I did get into, and then a couple weeks after that, I believe I heard back from American University, which I also got into, and then I got into University of Colorado Boulder and Champlain College. And then the last school that I heard back from, which was my top choice for the longest time, was Syracuse University, and I got waitlisted, which I was like super distraught about. Obviously I have plenty of like great options, but I was really upset about that because I really only saw myself going there throughout the whole application process, so that was definitely a tough one. Now I'm gonna go through the schools that I eliminated one by one and why. The first school that I eliminated was University of Colorado Boulder. This was an out-of-state school, really far away from me, and also super duper expensive since it was an out-of-state public school, so that automatically had to go just because of the price tag, and I wasn't too attached to it anyway. The next school I eliminated was University of Denver for a similar reason. That one's private, so it wasn't out of state, but it was definitely more pricey than any of my other options. Denver had to go. Next, I eliminated Fordham University. I actually did get a pretty good scholarship to Fordham, but it wasn't, Fordham's a really expensive school and it didn't really make enough of a dent for me to really consider going there, so I had to eliminate Fordham. Plus, it's in New York City, and I love New York City, but honestly, I didn't really see myself going to college there. It was just kind of like an intuitive, like, I'm not really going to Fordham. I also eliminated Champlain College. That's right in my hometown, and honestly, I didn't really feel like I vibed with it. So that leaves me with my final two acceptances, which were American University and University of Vermont. And then I was also pursuing the Syracuse waitlist at the same time, so I was in a really tricky position. Like, this was a really hard decision for me. Coming up on May 1st, I still had no idea what school I wanted to go to. It was literally the night before. It was like April 29th, and I was up like at midnight, like stressing out about this. And at that point, I was still really trying to get into Syracuse, but it wasn't a done deal if I could go. So I was really agonizing over which school do I deposit at while I wait for the Syracuse waitlist results. So I eventually chose to deposit at University of Vermont. It made more sense. It was cheaper, closer to home, especially with COVID. We didn't really know what the deal was, so we thought it'd be good to be close at home. I could see myself there. They still had a great program. American's program was just like a little more, they had like an actual school of communication, so that's what was drawing me towards that. But I ended up depositing at University of Vermont. My camera's dying, I'll be right back. I don't know how many of you have had to deal with a college waitlist in the past, but it is super duper stressful because they don't tell you if you get off the waitlist until after the May 1st deadline. So you have to deposit at another school and get excited about that because in a lot of cases, it's a long shot that you'll get off the waitlist. So they do encourage you to get excited about another school. So for me, that was UVM. I got super excited about UVM and I got like so jazzed about it. I was still pursuing the Syracuse waitlist thing, but there's only so many different steps you can take to try to bump yourself up the list. So it's really a waiting. But while I was waiting, I was getting excited about UVM. I followed the Class of 2025 Instagram page. I was on the website, doing webinars, new student, admitted student things, and I was loving it. I felt even more in love with UVM during that time. And even though I've been living in Burlington for my whole life, I just completely saw it in a new light, and I was just so excited to go there. And then eventually I heard back from Syracuse saying that I did actually get off the wait list, and that made my decision 10 times tougher because I had committed to UVM. I was super excited about everything about it, but Syracuse, which was my dream school all of high school and this only school that I really actually thought I would go to, finally admitted me. So I was in this really, really, really difficult position. And mind you, this was the week of graduation. So I had prom, I had graduation on my mind. Obviously feeling super sad about leaving Burlington, about graduating and starting a new chapter in my life. Just super emotional week for me. Plus, all of high school ending, graduation week is emotional anyway, but this was so excruciating for me. It was really, really difficult decision. And everyone else already knew where they were going. And so between that, I ended up choosing University of Vermont. Woo! UVM! So I'll be going to University of Vermont next year. I'm going to be majoring in public communications at the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. I could not be more excited. I've already picked up my classes. I'm working out a roommate situation, and I am just thrilled to be a catamount. I have to take off this hat. It's my dad's and it's way too small for my head. I was gonna put on my sweatshirt, but it's literally 90 degrees as I'm filming this, so just not an option right now. So now I'm gonna get into my stats and extracurriculars and other nitty-gritty college details. I'm hesitant to share these just because obviously I don't want to come off as bragging, but I decided to put it in because for comparison's sake, if you want to see oh, she got in with that SAT score, that GPA, I don't know, it might be helpful. So I'll just go over it briefly. So for standardized tests, I only took the SAT and I only took it once. I actually took it literally March 14th, 2020, the day COVID shut everything down. So obviously that was on my mind and I didn't really get a chance to retake it, which was unfortunate because I wasn't super thrilled with my score, which was, I believe it was 1150, which some of you might be whoa, that is so low, why would she even say that? That's pretty much what I got on the PSAT also, but luckily a lot of the schools I was applying to decided to go test optional because of COVID, so I went test optional on all my schools. And that was not included in my application. For my GPA, I had a pretty consistent GPA over 4 years. It was always around the high end. I think I graduated with a 3.9 something, unweighted. My school doesn't weight it. So that was pretty good. That was definitely a help in my application. For AP classes, I took three total. I didn't take any junior year, and senior year I took statistics, environmental science, and gov. And I took the tests for environmental science and gov, not the statistics test. So those were my application. All throughout high school, I took, I think, at least one honors class every year. Junior year, I only took one, so that was another thing on my application. And I was also a pretty involved student. I don't know if you guys want to hear me ramble about my extracurriculars, but I did do a lot of them. Not to brag or anything. And I did work 2 jobs throughout the course of high school, so that was also on there. So that is all I have for this video. I'll be attending University of Vermont. That's the main point of this. I definitely want to make a video about advice for applications. Let me know if you want to see that, and also make sure you guys are following me on Instagram and TikTok. I've been a lot more active over there in the past few months. My Instagram is at @_EllaFarrell_, and my TikTok is at frogloversonly, spelled like this. So make sure to check me out on those platforms, and I'll be back. Well, who knows? I'll be back eventually. I love you.
Yes.